Hinkson is a blind man, and at the time of 9/11, he was on the 78th floor of the first Twin Tower. Thankfully, Michael Hinkson had his guide dog Roselle. In this interview, Michael will explain how his guide dog saved his life.
More important than just guiding on the stairs, what Roselle did was she gave me something to focus on, which helped. And because I was able to focus on her and keep her calm and focused, that actually also helped other people because they heard me encouraging her and praising her, and Roselle was wagging her tail and just going down the stairs. That helped keep people calm as well.
If it weren't for the Seeing Eye, a non-profit organization co-founded by Morse Frank that helps blind people become independent through the use of guide dogs, Michael Hinkson may not have escaped the burning tower on September 11, 2001. This event is an example of how the Seeing Eye and Morse Frank broke barriers for those who are visually impaired. The use of dogs to help blind people in the United States started with a young man named Morse Frank, who was born on March 23, 1908 in Nashville, Tennessee. Unfortunately, when Morse was 16, he became blind in his left eye due to a boxing match. After the two incidents, Morse lost all sight and became depressed and lonely. Craig Gerritsen works at the Seeing Eye as a senior communications officer. He explains how blind people were treated before Morse Frank demanded independence for visually impaired people.
There weren't that many ideas about what to do about blind people. People were really if you were blind, people would kind of put you like in an institution or something. They wouldn't want you part of their lives, or somebody would just guide you around. And then all of a sudden, all these young men were blinded by these gases from the attack. And so all of a sudden, there were a lot more blind people.
Morse tried to live a normal life despite his blindness, so he hired a young boy to help guide him around the town and help him do his job as a salesman. But the young boy would get bored and leave Morse alone in unfamiliar places. One day, Morse's dad came home with the November 5, 1927 edition of the Saturday Evening Post that included an article written by an American philanthropist named Dorothy Eustace, who had moved to Switzerland to help World War I veterans. These veterans lost their sight after being exposed to mustard gas during battle. She thought that specially trained dogs could assist the former soldiers. When Morse Frank heard about the article, he knew that this was his opportunity to gain independence and help other blind people gain theirs. He decided to write a letter to Dorothy Eustace. In the letter, Morse asked, quote, "Is what you say really true? If so, I want one of those dogs, and I am not alone. Thousands of blind people like me must depend on others. Help me and I will help them. Train me and I will bring back my dog and show people here how a blind man can be absolutely on his own. We can set up an instruction center in this country to give all those here who want it a chance at a new life," unquote. Craig Gerritsen also says why Dorothy Eustace chose Morse Frank's letter.
A lot of people had sent Dorothy Harrison Eustace letters asking her to train dogs for them. And the only letter she responded to was Morse Frank's letter. And the reason why she responded to Morse Frank's letter was because he said, "If you train a dog for me, I will open a school in America that will train dogs for other people." And I think she liked the idea that he wanted to help. He wasn't just thinking about himself. He wanted to help other people too.
Dorothy called Morse and asked him to come to Switzerland. Morse replied with, quote, "Miss Eustace, to get my independence back, I'd go to hell," unquote. Morse left on ship for Europe in April of 1928. However, he was unable to buy a passenger ticket because he was blind. Instead, he was labeled as a package through Federal Express, and he wasn't allowed to leave his room unless a staff member was willing to help him. His travel experience proved how poorly blind people were treated during this time. Morse trained with Buddy, his guide dog, for many weeks. After the training, Morse was determined to get back to America and prove that blindness did not need to be a barrier, and with the help of specially trained dogs, blind people can have their liberty.
As I put my hand down on Buddy, I knew that she was going to be my Declaration of Independence and give me back the freedom that I so long desired to go and come as I pleased, and that she also would be the pioneer of the guide dog movement in the United States for the blind men and women who neither wanted charity nor pity, but wanted to live a normal life with normal people. And as they showed me how to put the harness on the dog, and we started down the road, as my legs stretched out, my shoulders went back, and my head went up, and the wind blew in my face, I knew I had my independence.
Buddy and Morris returned to New York on June 11, 1928, and were surrounded by a crowd of reporters and curious onlookers. One newspaper man dared Morris to have Buddy take him across West Street, also known as Depp Street, because it was busy, chaotic, and dangerous to cross. Morris had confidence in Buddy. Morris said, quote, "She moved forward into an ear-splitting clangor, stopped, backed up, and started again. I lost all sense of direction and surrendered myself entirely to the dog. I shall never forget the next 3 minutes. 10-ton trucks rocketing past, cabs blowing their horns in our ears, drivers shouting at us. When we finally got to the other side and I realized what a magnificent job she had done, I leaned over and gave Buddy a great big hug and told her what a good girl she was," unquote. As soon as Morris arrived home, he sent a one-word telegram to Dorothy Eustace saying, "Success." So, in 1929, Dorothy and Morris combined forces to create the Seeing Eye to train more dogs and help more blind Americans. Over the next several years, Dorothy and Morris worked to gain acceptance for blind people and Seeing Eye dogs by educating the public and even visiting the White House. Dorothy and Morris wanted to make sure that people understood why their cause was so important for blind people. He wanted more blind people to have access to guide dogs and to feel comfortable around guide dogs. Dorothy and Morris helped pass laws that allowed blind people and their dogs to enter public spaces. Morris and Buddy's last trip together was on May 16, 1938. This was also their first trip on airplane, but more importantly, it was the first time a Seeing Eye dog ever flew on plane with its owner. The flight was a success and proved that blind people could safely travel on planes. Because Morris and Buddy managed the flight without any problems, United Airlines updated their policy to grant all Seeing Eye dogs the privilege of riding with their masters in the cabins of any of the regularly scheduled planes. Buddy died shortly after on May 23, 1938, from a tumor. Because of Buddy's influential journey, the Seeing Eye trained 350 dogs for blind people in America in the 9 years between the time it was founded and when Buddy died. During their time together, Buddy and Morris traveled over 50,000 miles on foot, train, boat, subway, bus, and plane. Some people didn't believe that Morris Frank was blind because he was so confident walking around with Buddy. Their journey together proved to the world that dogs are more than man's best friend and can help break down barriers. Soon after Buddy's death, Morris got another German Shepherd that he named Buddy II. The Seeing Eye continued to grow. Today, their headquarters in New Jersey includes a 60-acre campus with an administrative office, vet clinic, student residence, kennels, and a breeding station. They further expanded their goals to assist veterans and first responders, which in 2003 became its own organization called America's Vet Dogs. President George Herbert Walker Bush had his own America's Vet dog named Sully, who served him till the president's death. In Morris Frank's lifetime, he had 6 German Shepherds, all named Buddy. He buried them all next to each other at the Seeing Eye. Morris Frank died on the 22nd of November, 1980. Morris Frank broke a barrier for blind people by giving them freedom and independence. Not only did he break a barrier for blind people, he broke a barrier for people with disabilities. He showed people that dogs can do much more than be a pet. They can guide and take care of you in ways that a person can't. He helped influence guide dogs for deaf people, people with seizures, therapy dogs, PTSD dogs, police dogs, search and rescue dogs, and so much more. Today, there are more than 10,000 guide dog teams currently working in the U.S. This shows how Morris Frank and Buddy broke barriers by pursuing a new idea and not stopping till they knew they had their freedom. A reporter commented that Buddy and Morris accomplished, quote, "one big step for disabled and one giant leap for assistant dogs."